John stood on the balcony of the Queen's palace, staring at the stars. No. The cool wind from the alien planet's twin moons ruffled his hair. He had never imagined that his life would end up like this. Once a simple human soldier, now he was. Standing beside a queen of a powerful alien race, his life had changed forever. But not in the way he expected. John had formed a strong bond with Queen Ileana, a wise and powerful leader from the star system of Zolaris. She had brought him here after a long and dangerous war with an enemy species. Over time, they had grown close. But there were others who didn't see the bond between them the way he did. There were whispers in the palace corridors, rumors that reached John's ears, and they made his heart heavy with doubt. "I cannot believe this," John muttered under his breath, staring down at the glittering city below. How could they think I would betray her? But it wasn't just a thought. It was an accusation that had been made openly before the court. A dangerous accusation that threatened not only his life, but also the Queen's reign. It had started a few days ago, when a rival faction in the palace had claimed that John was plotting against Ileana. They said he was secretly working with the enemy, spreading rumors that would divide the kingdom. John knew this wasn't true. He had always been loyal to Ileana, but proving that to others was harder than he had imagined. Queen Ileana had been furious when she heard the accusation. Her sharp eyes had locked onto John's, searching for any hint of betrayal. But she found none. She had always trusted him, and she had made it clear to everyone that he was loyal. Still, the accusations continued to circulate. Why would they do this? John had asked her one evening when they were alone in the royal gardens. The flowers glowed softly in the moonlight, their colors shifting in the strange atmosphere. What do they want from me? Why target me? Ileana had placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was gentle, but the fire in her eyes burned bright. There are those who envy our bond, John. They cannot understand it. They think that power lies only in control, not trust or loyalty. But you have proven yourself to me. You have. Nothing to prove to them. Despite her words, John could feel the weight of the suspicion in the air. The Queen had been forced to hold a public hearing to address the accusation, and John had been called to stand before the court. The entire planet's leaders, including representatives from other alien species, be there to judge him. It was the last thing John wanted. Standing before those who saw him as nothing more than a human, a foreigner who didn't belong, made his stomach churn. But he would not run. He had made a vow to himself and to the Queen that he would protect her and her kingdom, no matter the cost. As the day of the hearing approached, John began to feel the pressure. He spent hours in his chambers, pacing back and forth, wondering, what would happen if the accusations were believed? Would they exile him? Would they lock him away? Or worse, would they execute him for a crime he didn't commit? Ileana had tried to reassure him, but it didn't help. The rumors were everywhere. The servants whispered about him. The guards exchanged knowing glances when they passed by. And even the advisors had begun to question his loyalty. John had fought in many battles, faced impossible odds, but this was different. This was not a battle of weapons. It was a battle for his honor and trust. Finally, the day came. The great hall of the palace was filled with alien leaders, warriors, and diplomats. The air was thick with tension as they all waited for the proceedings to begin. John stood at the center of the hall, facing the Queen's throne. Ileana sat, with a calm expression on her face, but her eyes never left him. She trusted him, and he could feel it. But there were others who didn't. The head of the rival faction, a tall alien with sharp features named Tarek, stepped forward. His gaze was cold and calculating as he addressed the room. We stand here today to address a serious accusation. John, the human who has been in the Queen's service, has been found guilty of treason. We have evidence that he has conspired with the enemy, plotting against the Queen's rule. Cannot allow such treachery to continue. The room went silent. All eyes turned toward John, judging him, waiting for his reaction. His heart pounded in his chest, but he stood tall. He knew the truth. He would not let Tarek's lies win. I've been loyal to the Queen since the moment she saved me, John said, his voice firm and steady. I fought for her, bled for her, and I would never betray her, the accusations. You're making our lies And I can prove it. Ilyana rose from her throne, her presence commanding the room. This human, John, is not my enemy. He is my ally, my protector, and my friend. I trust him with my life, and I will not stand by while false accusations are made against him. Her voice rang out with authority, and for a moment the court seemed to hold its breath. John glanced up at her, surprised by the strength in her words. She had always been a powerful queen, but now she was showing a new side of herself, a side that was ready to fight for him, just as he would fight for her. But Tarek was not done. The queen is blind, he sneered. Her judgment is clouded by her feelings for this human. How can she trust someone who is not one of us? John could feel the weight of every word Tarek spoke. He was trying to turn the court against him, to make them believe that his bond with Ilyana was a weakness. But John would not let that happen. I am not one of you, John said, his voice growing stronger. But that doesn't mean I'm any less loyal to the queen or her people. I'm here because she saved me, and I will stand by her side until the end. The room was silent for a long time. Then, one by one, the leaders of the other factions began to speak. Some voiced their doubts. But others, those who had witnessed John's bravery and loyalty, spoke in his defense. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the queen stood once again. Her voice was calm but powerful as she addressed the room. I have spoken. John will remain by my side, and I will not allow anyone to tear us apart. Let this be the end of this matter. The court was dismissed, but John could still feel the tension in the air. It wasn't over yet. There were still those who would plot against him. But for now, he had won this battle, and he knew one thing for sure. He was not alone. The queen believed in him, and that was all that mattered. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the planet's surface. The colors of the sky mixed with the swirling clouds, creating a beautiful scene. John stood at the edge of the balcony, watching the view, but his mind was far from the peace of the moment. The trial had ended, but the tension in the palace was still thick. Even though the queen had publicly defended him, John knew the damage wasn't fully healed. He could feel the eyes of the courtiers on him as he walked through the corridors. The whispers had not stopped. He tried to ignore them, but each word, each glance, made his stomach tighten. It wasn't just the rivalry. It was the fact that people, even those he considered allies, didn't trust him the way the queen did. John, a voice called behind him. He turned to see Ilyana, the queen, standing in the doorway. Her presence was calming, yet there was a weight in her eyes. It wasn't the cold stare of the courtroom. It was something deeper. I need to speak with you. John nodded and stepped toward her, grateful for the chance to speak with her in private. They made their way to her chambers, where the view was just as magnificent. But this time, it was only the two of them. The heavy wooden door closed behind them, blocking out the noise of the palace. I've heard their words. John, Ilyana said quietly, her voice betraying no emotion. And they will not stop. John stood still, his eyes searching her face for any sign of doubt. But there was none. She was still the queen he had come to respect, the leader who had always been strong and confident. He had always admired her, but now he saw her not just as a queen, but as someone who trusted him with her heart and her kingdom. I'm not afraid of their words, John replied, his voice steady. But I know what they can do. They want to weaken you, to drive a wedge between us. They think I'm just a human who doesn't belong here. Ilyana took a step closer, her eyes softening. You do belong here, John. You are not just a human. You are my ally, my protector. And if you will allow me to say this, you are more than that. She paused, her words hanging in the air. I trust you, John. I have always trusted you. His heart skipped a beat at her words. He had always admired her strength, but to hear her say she trusted him was something else entirely. He had never expected it, in a world of strange customs. Endless politics and hidden agendas. It was a rare thing, genuine trust. And it was something John had never taken lightly. Your trust means everything to me, he said, his voice a little softer than before. I won't betray you. I promise. Ileana gave him a small, understanding smile. I know you won't. She took his hand, her touch light but firm. But it is not just trust that will keep us strong. It is unity. And that is something we must show to the galaxy. She released his hand, turning to look out of the window at the sprawling palace grounds. My people must see that our bond is unbreakable. They need to see us as a united front. John watched her, understanding her words more than she realized. The pressure she faced wasn't just political, it was personal. Her people saw her as a ruler, and her every action was scrutinized. The more John thought about it, the more he realized how heavy the crown weighed on her. I will stand by you, Queen Ileana, John said, his resolve growing stronger. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that our bond is real. To show them that I'm not just some outsider. I'm here because of you. I will fight for you. Ileana turned back to him, her eyes brightening with gratitude. I know, and that is why I need you by my side. You have proven your loyalty. But now, we must show the galaxy. As they stood there, a quiet determination filled the room. John had been through battles, wars, and dangers, but none of that compared to what lay ahead. This was different. This was about standing with the Queen, about showing the galaxy that their bond was more than just a passing alliance. This was about proving that humanity could be more than just a footnote in the universe, could be a force of change. The next morning, the news spread across the palace. Ileana was holding a council meeting to announce a new strategy, but this wasn't just about politics. It was about making a statement. John was going to play a central role in it. At the meeting, the Queen sat at the head of the long table, her golden crown gleaming in the light. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held a fire that few had seen before. John stood beside her, a silent but firm presence. This was his chance to prove to the galaxy that he wasn't just a human. He was a partner to the Queen, and together they would lead Tay. The leader of the rival faction sat across from them, his eyes cold. He had not forgiven John for surviving the accusations. His distrust was clear, but John wouldn't back. Down, Ileana, Tarek began, his voice dripping with disdain. This human is still a weakness. You have no place for him in your court. Ileana's gaze never wavered as she spoke. John is not a weakness. He is my ally and my mate, and that is not up for debate. The room went silent. Tarek's face turned pale with disbelief. A few of the other leaders looked at each other, shocked by the boldness of Ileana's words, but John felt something stir inside him. It wasn't fear, it was pride. The Queen had called him her mate in front of everyone, and there was no turning. Back now. I will stand by her, just as I always have, John said, his voice clear and strong. If anyone has doubts about my loyalty, I'll prove it. Tarek opened his mouth to argue, but Ileana raised a hand, silencing him. This is settled. John will remain by my side. The matter is closed. As the council meeting ended, John followed the Queen through the corridors. The weight of the moment lingered in the air, but for the first time in a long while, he felt at peace. The Queen trusted him, and for the first time in his life, he truly felt that he belonged. Together, they would face whatever came next. The galaxy would see that nothing could tear them apart. The days following the council meeting were filled with tension, but also a sense of purpose. John had expected the political games and the whispers to continue, but what he didn't expect was the quiet moments he shared with Queen Ileana. Those moments were more than just private time. They were a deeper bond forming between them, one he hadn't fully understood until now. John stood in the royal gardens, watching the shimmering flowers bloom in the light of the twin moons. He had always admired the beauty of this planet, but something about tonight felt different. It wasn't just the alien landscape. It was the growing realization that his life had changed forever. Ileana joined him soon after, her soft footsteps making barely a sound as she approached. John, she said, her voice calm but filled with something unspoken. There's something I need to tell you. He turned to her, sensing the seriousness in her tone. What's wrong? She looked out at the horizon for a moment before turning back to him. It's not about the accusations or the politics, she began, but something much older. Something from my people's past. John furrowed his brow, unsure where this conversation was heading. What do you mean? You've already trusted me with everything. What else could there be? Ileana's gaze was steady, but there was a quiet weight in her eyes. You've heard the stories, John. Stories of my people, of the ancient prophecy. John nodded, having heard fragments of these stories in passing. But he never thought. They were real. They were just tales. Legends passed down through generations. The prophecy. Yeah? You mean the one about the chosen one, who would unite the galaxy? Nodded, her eyes never leaving his. Yes, there is a belief among my people that one day a human would come, one who would bring peace and restore balance to the galaxy. It's an old legend, and many thought it was just a myth, but now I believe it's true. John stood still, trying to grasp what she was saying. Are you saying that I'm part of this prophecy? Ileana's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. I don't know if I believe in fate or destiny, but I do know that our bond goes beyond what we understand. We are not just allies, John. We are connected in a way that goes back centuries. John's heart raced as the weight of her words hit him. He had always thought of his connection with Ileana as something real, something built on trust and respect. But now, hearing that it was part of something ancient, something greater than either of them, made it all the more overwhelming. You're not just a soldier to me, John, she continued. You are the one who will help us all, help this galaxy heal the wounds of the past. John was speechless. He had always known that his presence here had a purpose, but he never thought it would be something so grand, so important. The thought that his very existence was tied to the future of an entire galaxy was almost too much to comprehend. I never asked for this, he said quietly. I didn't come here to be part of a prophecy or to change the galaxy. I just wanted to help you. Ileana placed a hand on his arm, her touch gentle but firm. I know, John, but sometimes destiny chooses us. And sometimes the hardest part is accepting it. For a long moment, they stood together in silence, the weight of the conversation sinking in. John wasn't sure what to say next, but he knew that his role in this story was far more significant than he had ever imagined. It wasn't just about loyalty to the Queen anymore. It was about something that could change the course of history. Didn't ask for this, but I'll stand by you, Ileana, John said finally. Whatever it takes, I'll help you and your people. I'll be the partner you need. Ileana's eyes softened with affection, but there was still a deep sense of responsibility in her gaze. You're more than just a partner, John. You are my equal. Together, we will change everything. Later that evening, Ileana called a private meeting. John was puzzled at first, but when he entered the royal chamber, he saw that the room was filled with several high-ranking officials from the Queen's court, many of whom had expressed doubt about him in the past. The Queen stood before them, her posture straight and proud. I have asked you all here because I must make something clear, she began, her voice ringing with authority. John is not just a guest or an outsider in this palace. He's my mate. And together, we will lead this kingdom to a future where peace and unity reign. There was a collective silence in the room, and John could feel the eyes of the court, members on him. Some faces showed shock, others showed resistance, but there was no mistaking the shift that was happening. Ileana had made it clear to them, and now John had to prove himself once and for all. I know many of you doubt him, Ileana continued, her gaze sweeping across the room, but your doubts are misplaced. John's loyalty to me has been tested, and he has proven that he is not only trustworthy, but capable of great strength. I will not allow his presence here to be questioned any longer. John stood tall beside her, the weight of the moment not lost on him. He had never imagined himself in such a position, standing as the equal of the Queen, his role in her reign. Just as important as hers, but it was real. It was happening. One of the court members, a tall alien with sharp features, stepped forward, his voice cold. But how can we trust him, Your Majesty? He is human. His people have not earned the trust of the galaxy. Ileana's expression didn't falter. Trust is earned, not given freely. John has earned it with me, and I stand by him. Those who do not see his worth will be left behind. The tension in the room was thick, but John could feel the shift. In the air, slowly, the court members began to nod, some reluctantly, others with a sense of acceptance. The seeds of change were planted. As the meeting ended, John followed Ileana out of the chamber. The weight of her words echoed in his mind. He had never expected to find himself here, in a position of such importance. But now that he knew there was no turning back. The galaxy had a long road ahead, but with Ileana by his side, John was ready for whatever came next. The days following the council meeting were filled with uncertainty. Even though John had stood by the Queen's side in front of the court, the true test had yet to come. Ileana's decision to make him her equal was a bold one, and it would have far-reaching consequences. The people of her kingdom, the galaxy itself, would soon see how serious she was about their bond. John spent the next few days training, preparing for what would come next. He was no stranger to battle, but this was different. This wasn't about fighting in wars or defeating enemies. It was about proving his place in a galaxy that had always seen humans as nothing more than insignificant outsiders. He couldn't let Ileana down. Couldn't let their people down. "Are you ready?" Ileana's voice broke through his thoughts. John turned to see her standing in the doorway of his quarters, her expression calm but determined. Eyes held a quiet strength, and he could see the weight of her decision in them. "I'm ready," John replied, his voice firm. "We've come this far. I'm not backing down now." Ileana nodded, her lips curving into a small smile. "Good. Then let's make sure the galaxy knows who we are." The grand hall was filled with whispers as John entered alongside Ileana. The entire palace was alive with anticipation. Today, the Queen would officially announce their bond to the public. Today, John would be introduced to her people not just as her ally, but as her mate. The throne room where the announcement would take place was adorned with banners and symbols of Ileana's reign. The room was filled with dignitaries, advisors, and leaders from various parts of the galaxy. Many of them had attended the council meeting, where the Queen had publicly defended John. But now they would see the truth of her words. John felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders as he walked beside Ileana. The air was thick with tension. Some of the leaders had questioned his place among them. It wanted proof, not just of his loyalty, but of his worth. Today, Ileana would give them that proof. She led him to the center of the room where a grand stage had been set up. A golden throne sat at the head of the room, surrounded by a circle of seats for the most trusted advisors. The room, a large screen, displayed the faces of representatives from other planets, waiting to hear what Ileana would say. As they stood before the crowd, Ileana raised her hand, signaling for silence. The room fell quiet, and all eyes turned toward her. The Queen's presence was commanding, and in that moment, it was clear to everyone that she was a ruler who would not be swayed. "My people," Ileana began, her voice echoing through the hall. "We stand at a crossroads. Galaxy is changing, and it is time for us to change with it." She paused, letting her words settle before continuing. "The rumors, the accusations, and the doubts today, I will put them to rest. I declare to you all that John, the human who has stood by my side through thick and thin, is not just an ally. He is my mate. Together, we will lead our people into a new era." A hushed silence fell over the crowd. John's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood tall beside the Queen, his eyes focused on the gathered leaders. Could feel the weight of their stares, the judgment in their gazes. But he didn't flinch. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was her equal, and he would prove it to them. Ileana's voice rose again, filled with power and conviction. "John has fought for us. He has risked his life, and he has shown nothing but loyalty and strength. It is because of him that we stand strong today. I will not allow anyone to question his place by my side. He is not just a human, he is my partner in every sense of the word." The Queen's words rang out in the hall, and John could see the reactions of those present. Some looked shocked, others were skeptical, and a few showed signs of acceptance. But no one could deny the force of Ileana's declaration. She had spoken, and her words held power. John took a deep breath as Ileana stepped back, signaling for him to speak. He could feel the eyes of the galaxy on him, and for a moment the weight of it all threatened to overwhelm him. But he steadied himself. He was here for a reason. He was here because of Ilyana, because she believed in him. "I am honored," John began, his voice clear and steady. "When I first came to this planet, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what my place was in a world so different from my own. But I do now. I belong here not just by the Queen's side, but with all of you. I stand with Ilyana because she has shown me what it means to trust, to fight for something greater than ourselves." He paused, meeting the eyes of the leaders in the room. "I'm not asking for your approval, not asking you to see me as anything more than I am, but I am asking for your respect. I am here to help Ilyana lead. I am here to help all of us move forward together." There was a long silence as the crowd absorbed his words. John felt the weight of their judgment lift slightly, but the true test was yet to come. He had spoken from his heart, but the leaders still had to decide whether they would accept him or not. The first to speak was a tall, imposing alien from a distant star system. His voice was low, but filled with authority. "You speak with honor, human," he said, his eyes narrowing slightly. "But words are easy. Prove your worth. Show us that you are more than just a human." John nodded. He had expected this. "I've been tested already. If you doubt me, then test me again. I will prove my loyalty." Ilyana's eyes flickered with pride as she stood beside him. "John has proven himself many times over. He is my choice, and I will not let anyone undermine that." The room remained quiet, but the tension had shifted. The seeds of change had been planted, and it was clear that not all of the leaders would be easily won over. But there was something different in the air now. Ilyana's declaration had been made, and John had spoken from the heart. They had shown the galaxy their unity, and that was a powerful thing. As the meeting continued, John felt a sense of calm wash over him. The battle for trust was far from over, but today they had taken a step forward. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just an outsider. He was part of something bigger, something that would shape the future of the galaxy. The weeks after Ilyana's public declaration had been a whirlwind of meetings, gatherings, and rising tensions. The galaxy had heard the Queen's words, and some accepted them, while others remained skeptical. John's place in her court was no longer in question, but that didn't mean the challenges were over. Now it was time to prove that his bond with Ilyana was more than just a political statement. It was a partnership that would shape the future of her people. John had expected to be tested, but not like this. You had announced that there would be trials, a series of challenges designed to prove his strength, loyalty, and commitment. They were not simple tests of combat, but trials that would push him both physically and mentally. He had faced wars, alien enemies, and dangerous battles before. But these trials would be unlike anything he had ever known. Ilyana called him to her private chambers one evening, her expression serious. "John, I know this will be difficult," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But these trials are not just for you. They are for our people. I need to see that you are not just here as my mate, but as a leader who can stand by my side in the most difficult of situations." John nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes." Ilyana placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch soft yet filled with an unspoken strength. "You are not alone in this. I will be with you every step of the way, but remember, these trials are meant to test your spirit as much as your body. You must show them that you are worthy of the trust I have placed in you." The first trial came quickly. It was a physical challenge, a test of strength and endurance, designed to push John to his limits. He was taken to a vast arena, surrounded by towering walls and 1,000 watching eyes. His opponent was an alien warrior, a hulking figure covered in thick armored plating. The creature towered over John, its eyes glowing with cold determination. John had faced many enemies before, but this was different. This warrior wasn't just fighting for victory. It was fighting to prove a point that a human couldn't be trusted, that a human didn't belong among the stars. The moment the battle began, John knew he had to fight harder than he ever had before. The alien lunged, its massive fists swinging toward John with incredible speed. But John was quick, dodging the blow and countering with a strike to the creatures. sighed. It staggered but recovered almost instantly, its strength and speed overwhelming. John's body was beginning to ache, his muscles burning with each movement, but he pushed on. He couldn't afford to lose. Not now, not when everything was at stake. Ileana watched from the sidelines, her eyes never leaving John. She knew this wasn't just about winning the fight. It was about showing her people that he was capable of standing up to the trials of their world, that he could endure whatever challenges came their way. John fought with everything he had, using his speed and agility to outmaneuver the alien warrior. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he saw an opening. The warrior swung a massive fist, and John ducked, delivering a swift punch to its exposed side. The creature staggered and fell, its body crashing to the ground with a loud thud. The crowd fell silent, and for a moment, John stood there, panting, his heart racing. He had done it. He had won, but more importantly, he had shown them that he was capable. He was not just a human, he was a warrior, just like the rest of them. Ileana's voice echoed across the arena. John has proven his strength. This trial is complete. The crowd erupted into applause, though John could sense that not everyone was pleased. There were still those who doubted him, who believed that a human had no place in their world. But Ileana stood beside him, her presence a silent reminder that his place was earned, not given. The second trial was less physical, but no less challenging. It was a test of leadership and diplomacy, a situation designed to challenge John's ability to navigate the complex politics of the galaxy. The task was simple. He was to negotiate a peace treaty between two warring factions. One faction, from a distant planet, had been in conflict with Ileana's people for generations. The other was a race known for their fiery tempers and strong opinions. John had no experience in diplomacy. He had never been one to speak words to solve problems. He had always relied on his actions. But now, he had to use his words to bring two factions to the table and convince them to lay down their weapons. He stood in a large, round room, facing the representatives of the two factions. Ileana sat beside him, her gaze calm but intense. She believed in him, but the pressure was heavy. The fate of many lives rested on his ability to speak with wisdom and grace. The two leaders were nothing like the calm, composed Ileana. One was a towering alien with long, sharp claws and a voice that rumbled like thunder. The other was a wiry, quick-moving alien with a sharp tongue and an even sharper mind. They had been fighting for years, and their hatred for each other was obvious. John took a deep breath and stepped forward, his voice steady as he spoke. "I know that you have been at war for a long time," he began, his words measured and clear. "But the cost of war is high. Lives are lost. Families are torn apart. And for what? Is it worth the pain? The destruction?" The room fell silent. John could see the wariness in their eyes, but also something else, curiosity. He had their attention. He continued, his voice calm but filled with conviction. "Yeah, you both want what's best for your people. I know that. But if you keep fighting, no one wins. No one gets what they truly want. It's time to end this war." He spoke for what felt like hours, laying out the terms of peace, offering compromises, and showing them the strength in unity. Slowly, he saw the shift. The leaders of both factions, though reluctant, began to nod in agreement. The hatred between them was deep, but John had shown them that peace was possible. When the meeting ended, John stood beside Ileana, exhausted but relieved. "You did it," she whispered, her voice filled with pride. "I couldn't have done it without you," John replied. "Your people, they trust you. That's why they listened." Ileana smiled, a small but sincere smile. "And now they trust you too. You've proven yourself in every way." John didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time, he felt like he truly belonged. He had earned the trust of Ileana's people, and no matter what challenges came next, he knew they would face them together. The trials were over, but the real test was just beginning. John had faced the physical and diplomatic challenges, proving his strength and his ability to lead. Yet, despite the victories, there was a feeling of unease in the air. The galaxy was vast, and not all factions were convinced by Ileana's decision. Some still saw her choice of a human as a weakness, something that could be exploited. John knew that their journey was far from finished. The peace treaty he had brokered was a start, but there were many more obstacles to overcome. The political landscape was always shifting, and new threats seemed to appear at every turn. But through it all, Ilyana's support had been unwavering. She had stood by him, and now it was time for him to do the same for her. It was late one evening when Ilyana summoned him to her chambers. The stars outside were shining brightly, casting a soft glow over the palace. John entered and found her standing by the window, her expression thoughtful, almost distant. "You've done well, John," she said without turning. "The trials were necessary, but they were only the beginning. Now we face the true challenge." John stepped closer, his gaze meeting hers in the reflection of the glass. "What do you mean?" Ilyana finally turned to face him, her eyes filled with a mixture of determination and uncertainty. "We have made progress, but we are not the only ones in the galaxy. There are forces who will test our unity. Some will seek to tear us apart. Others will try to control us. Our strength is not just in our abilities, but in our bond, and that bond must remain unbreakable." John nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. The stakes were higher than ever before. But he wasn't afraid, not anymore. He had fought for her, stood by her side, and now he would protect her with everything he had. "I won't let anything break us, Ilyana," he said firmly. "We've come this far together. I won't stop now." Ilyana's gaze softened, and she walked over to him, placing a hand on his chest. "I believe you, but there is one more thing. One last challenge that we must face together." John frowned, a sense of apprehension building in his chest. "What is it?" Ilyana looked at him with a steady, unwavering gaze. "We must go to the heart of the galaxy, to the Galactic Council. There we will make our final declaration. We will show the galaxy who we are and what we stand for, and we will ask for their support." John felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. The Galactic Council was the most powerful body in the universe, was a place of politics, negotiations, and endless power struggles. The idea of standing before them asking for their support was daunting. The council was filled with beings who would see their bond as a threat, a weakness. Many would never accept a human as the Queen's equal. But Ilyana had been right. This was the final step. They needed to prove to the galaxy that their unity was not a fluke, that it was real and strong. If they could win the council's approval, they could begin a new chapter in the galaxy's history. "Are you sure?" John asked quietly. "The council, they won't make it easy." "I'm sure," Ilyana replied, her voice steady. "We have already shown the galaxy what we are capable of. This is just the final piece. After this, we will have the strength to face whatever comes." The journey to the Galactic Council was long and difficult. They traveled aboard the Queen's flagship, a massive ship that could move through the stars with ease. The ship was a symbol of her power, a force to be reckoned with. John stood by Ilyana's side as they traveled through the galaxy, making their way to the council's meeting place. The council was located on a neutral planet, a world that served as a gathering place for representatives from all corners of the galaxy. It was a world of diplomacy, a place where leaders met to discuss matters of peace, trade, and war. It was a place where alliances were formed and broken as they arrived at the planet. John couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from every known species. Each one was powerful in its own way, and each one had its own agenda. Some were curious about the Queen's decision to choose a human as her mate, while others were openly hostile. Ilyana stood tall beside him, her eyes scanning the room. Her presence commanded attention, but John knew that the true test was just beginning. The council would be filled with opposition, and they would need to convince them that their bond was not a weakness, but a strength. The moment they entered the council chamber, all eyes turned toward them. John could feel the weight of the stairs, the scrutiny of countless beings who held the power to shape the galaxy's future. The leaders of the council, some familiar, Some unknown watched them with interest. Ilyana, a deep voice boomed from across the room. It was a large alien, with skin that shimmered like polished metal and eyes that seemed to see straight through him. You stand here with this human, claiming him as your mate. But do you not see the danger in this? How can you trust him?
How?
Can you trust a species that has done nothing but destroy and conquer? John felt the anger rise in him, but he kept his composure. He knew this was the challenge. This was where their bond would be tested. Ilyana stepped forward, her voice calm, but filled with authority. This human, John, has proven himself to be more than just an outsider. He has fought for our people, sacrificed for our cause, and shown unwavering loyalty. His presence by my side is not a weakness, it is our strength. She turned to John, her gaze softening for just a moment. John is my partner! Together, we will lead this galaxy into a new age of peace and unity. Those who cannot see that are welcome to remain in the past. The room fell silent. The leaders of the council exchanged looks, their expressions unreadable. John felt the tension in the air, but he stood tall beside Ilyana, ready to face whatever came next. And then, slowly, one by one, the representatives began to nod. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The council had heard their words, and for the first time, they saw the truth in Ilyana's declaration. Their bond was unbreakable, and no matter the challenges they would face them together. As the meeting came to a close, John and Ilyana stood together, knowing that they had taken the first step toward a new future. The galaxy was vast and filled with uncertainty, but for the first time they felt ready to face it all. They had proven their strength, and now the galaxy would see them for who they truly were.